Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Do not adjust your monitor, your phone. Yes, it is right. What you're seeing is correct. We've got, actually, we probably count as one podcaster, right, between the two of us. But we've got a covey of podcasters here, maybe a gaggle or a herd of podcasters here. We're live at Viva Fresh Expo in Houston, Texas, beautiful Houston, Texas. And joining us today, aside from my very dapper, handsome co-host, Mr. Craig Slate.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that shout-out.
Is Mr. Patrick Kelly from the Produce Industry Podcast. Patrick, thanks for being here.
Patrick.
Hello. Great to be here.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. And Mr. Shay Myers, CEO of Owyhee Produce and also host of Produce Common Sense Podcast.
Thanks
Shay,
for having me.
thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we know
Beautiful
it's a
place.
busy day. Y'all,
It is.
The show just kicked off. We had the ribbon cutting just a few minutes ago. What do you guys think so far of the show? Obviously, today's the first day of the expo, but we've had a couple days here. You guys have had some meetings.
Yeah, this is our third time. This is our third time being here. Sorry to cut you off, but we've liked it every single time. We've liked to come back, and the crowds are good. Obviously, the business in this part of the world is great, and it seems to get better and better every single year. So if you haven't come, you should be coming, because it's whether you've got a booth or not, just to be here. I mean, the crowds are great, the people are good, and the way they treat you as like the event itself, the food, the snacks, the in-between stuff. I hate going to trade shows and starving all day, and that doesn't happen here.
You know, that's a good point, actually. So very early on when we were conceptualizing the event, I'm talking 11 years ago, that was a key focus. Like, we had all been to trade shows and conventions where the food was lacking. And oddly enough, as we started working with the chefs at these huge resorts, because you don't think they can actually produce something that's, of high quality, they're super into it. Like, they want to do special things, and they want to work with our guests and exhibitors' product. It's just a matter of, bringing it up, and they'll work with you. So I've been in kind of the back bowels of the kitchens, like that they're huge, industrial, enormous kitchens, but they have 15 different chefs working back there. So that's pretty cool. You guys come from far away, so I'm going to go out on a limb. You said it already. Like, you see the value of being here, which is phenomenal. We're super excited. So you guys are doing any interviews, talking to people. I think you said you were doing some stuff yesterday.
Yeah, we did some stuff yesterday. I got in on Thursday. Love Houston. I told it to someone the other day, and they were like, "I'm sorry, what? You like Houston?" You like Houston? And no, it's great. I mean, we have customers here. The port's here. So when I flew in on Thursday, obviously we went right to the terminal market. Went to see some clients. Went to see some of our produce. Right. I mean, that's one thing. And did a lot of retail store checks as well. One thing that I do when I travel is I always go check out retail stores. Heck, I mean, John Pandel, I'm trying to beat his. I think he does about 72 store checks.
Good luck with that.
Per every hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
But, getting here, it's a good show. This is my third year after, after COVID. I never experienced Viva, and kind of lobbying to come to the show, seeing what it is. What I like about the show is it's a differentiator. A lot of vendors and clients here that you don't see at other traditional shows because they stay to the regional showcase of Texas. So it's amazing to see the different clientele and networking that can be put together here. As for food, I starved yesterday, everyone. It had nothing to do with the show, though.
You're fasting?
Intermittent fasting, right? That was your program.
That's what it was. But
fasting's the new starving.
Apparently, though, the speaker said that's not good, so I don't know.
It's definitely not.
I don't know. I disagree with that.
We
could have a debate on that.
We did our interviews about 9. We did 9 to 12 yesterday. We had a small room, and if you guys see my stuff, I'm talking, having fun. What's happening, and we did ours yesterday too. Yep. I think we talked more about flying in your plane than we did.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about today.
We did about produce, but it's great. And what I like about it is certain clients go to certain shows, right? Like I just said, and I'm able to see some international clients that I don't see at some of the other shows that'll fly in specifically for this because it falls around their fiscal year and their planning cycle. So
right.
Yeah, pretty cool.
All right, so that's Viva Fresh, absolutely off to a great start. It's been a blast putting that together.
That's been confirmed.
And not only is it off to a good start, it's been a great part for us to be part of with the podcast, right, and participate in. But what I really want to know is I want to know you guys. I want to know about you and your history.
We charge for that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think we paid a pretty penny for this. You know, guys, this ain't free.
Coffee and water.
You think these guys?
We got some.
Yeah. Start with you, Patrick. I mean, everybody knows you as the produce podcaster, the main guy, and as it goes to produce. And so, how did you get there? Because I know I don't think you did. At least you started out podcasting.
Yeah,
so.
no, I didn't. You know, the podcast, I always say, and I laugh about this because it's like, I love and hate telling the story because it's one of those ones as an entrepreneur. I love talking about it, but it's like I love progressing, right? I love growth. So it all happened in 2020. You know, shutdown happened. I had a podcast called Millennial Boom. It was based on my book that I co-authored with a baby boomer. It was about growing together, thriving in life and work. And I pretty much talked about how, as a millennial business owner, trying to work with baby boomers, right? How to present, how to technology, you know, how-tos, you know, rules of engagement. And I remember a buddy of mine, you know, Shay, we talked about this. Like, I remember my buddy goes, "Man, that's a controversial subject. You're talking about the people that feed you and pay your paycheck every week." And I always go, "Well, they don't pay my paycheck. I own my own business, you know." And it was funny because my buddy was like, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, "I sell citrus." And he goes, "What?" Right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. When I sold bananas, that was always the question. It's like, you're a banana salesman?
Yeah, you do that. Like, that's a job?
So like, you actually, like, sell citrus on the side of the road, like in bags? And I'm like,
yep.
Like, technically, yes, I do. So, you know, my buddy was just like, "You should do a produce podcast." And I said, "Yeah, no one wants to listen to some 33-year-old bearded millennial that sells citrus all day." And sure enough, he was like, "I would." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you also teach people how to start podcasts." Like,
yeah, exactly.
I was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I'm becoming another notch on your belt, bro." And he goes, "Listen, let's do it." Boom. Literally a week later, COVID hit. He calls me and goes, "I'm doing a masterclass March 27th. He goes, "Why don't you come in? We've got 3 business owners." And you've heard this story.
Yeah.
We have 3 business owners. Come on in and let's talk about what we can do together. I walk in. There's 3 boards. You know, remember in high school or college, there was 3 boards. One had someone's name on it. The other one had someone's name on it. And right in the middle, it said the Produce Industry Podcast with Patrick Kelly. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I sat through an 8-hour masterclass, and I went home that night, and I recorded a 1-minute intro. And April 1st, it's funny because I had called a few people that had podcasts in our industry first.
Yeah.
You know, Lori Taylor, the Produce Moms, Brent Aaronworth, the Produce Life, and then tried to get a hold of University of Riverside in Florida, but they don't answer their phones.
Okay.
So I realized, like, yeah, there's a niche. There's a need to get on-demand information out, right? As watching Shay do videos and coming in with Fresh Plaza every week, I was like, there's no audio sources out there that's giving on-demand marketing trends through COVID. So we started. I recorded my first Monday, April 1st of 2020 with Brent Aaronworth. 4 years later, we recorded with Brent Aaronworth, April 1st, 2024.
Yeah, there's no theme there, right?
And
that April 1st date.
No, it wasn't. And it's funny because now we're over 420 episodes later, and it just went from I'm going to have fun and just build a community together like I was trying to do with baby boomers and millennials, and it's just something that I never expected that would happen has happened. And now, like I said, 420 episodes, 4 shows. Shay's a sponsor of the show since inception of this deal, and I believe it grows our industry in a way that other associations and groups aren't doing. It's thriving together, it's building together, and it's utilizing relationships that we didn't before, and that's what I love most about it. So the journey, obviously I'm enjoying the journey, as I say all the time, like I love to talk about it. It's happening so fast that I'm just trying to sit and enjoy the journey and process it more than, going after it so much.
Right. So, but let's go back a little further. So citrus, right? So
Yeah.
before you're deciding to write a book, so hats off to you on the book writing, but how'd you get to citrus? How did that get started?
Yeah.
Because you're originally, out of California, correct?
Out of California.
Yeah.
So Grandma started at Hughes Markets in Pasadena. Yep, you're shaking. He knows.
Yeah,
He knows,
I know Hughes.
She was a produce manager at Hughes Markets.
Okay.
Sold to El Rancho supermarkets. Grandma lived in Huntington Beach all her life. My dad worked at the same grocery stores. My dad went to Pasadena High. So over the years, both my Nana and immigrants from Canada,
Okay.
they came down, started life for themselves. And at the end of the day, Dad, was stocking shelves as a young man. And back in the days when you could get promoted right in the store, he got promoted and went to work for like Shasta Cola, started selling like citric acid for Shasta Cola, got into Sara Lee, selling orange marmalade for Sara Lee, and then ended up meeting a grower packer shipper in his early days and got paired up with citrus, packing houses, juices, things like that. So my dad became a juice broker in juice out of Brazil and Florida, and then, like I said, partnered with a packing house in California for over 20 years. So that's where I started, right?
Yeah.
Picking oranges.
Well, you were born at some point, right? So you were born, and
I was born,
and there's this citrus deal going on.
And at 15, my dad had us picking oranges. So that was my dad was an entrepreneur as well. So we were picking oranges at 15. Worked for my dad for a few years, and as I say, Dad and I didn't always get along. And I started my own company.
No.
And I did citrus, right? Like I was brokering.
That seemed
citrus.
natural.
Yeah. So we did other things, pineapples and grapes and other things. And then like I said, just progressed through my career. And then when COVID happened, just kind of picked up doing the podcast.
Got it.
Still sell citrus to this day.
Yeah, all right.
So I'm still.
That's a hell of an elevator speech.
Like,
That is, well, yeah.
citrus supply chain.
That's a Empire State Building.
So it is, but it's a bit of fun journey. Like I said, it's. I love selling citrus. I love being in the actual day-to-days, right? Like we all do. But I do love being able to connect with people on a level that is beyond citrus.
Yeah.
Patrick,
And that's what I love the most.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're on all the time.
What do you mean?
You're on. Like, you're on all the time. You're thinking about work, podcast, whatever. Like, you're not.
No, I mean,
where I'm going with this is
pretty
that,
close.
Yeah, no.
Okay, all right.
speaking of millennials, folks, particularly younger than you, I hate the term work-life balance. I think there's no such thing. If you love what you do. Like,
yeah.
and if you love what you do, we
There's some
we
new
talk about it all
PC
the time.
term for that. What was it? I just heard it the other day. Does
I don't
anybody-
know. Listen, I have a crazy work-life balance. Like people ask me. I mean, Ed, we talked about that too when we first chatted. My work-life balance is my family and my kids. I can tell you right now, I will give up $1 million deal to go to my kid's soccer game.
Yeah.
Like I don't.
But you might go home and go back to work, or you might have to do
So
it's not.
I am gonna finally say no.
Oh,
Really?
So
look at that.
I have gotten to a point, and this happened, and everyone. I mean, Shay knows about this. So my wife had heart issues a couple years ago.
Okay.
She was in the hospital for a month. Everyone.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that, and I, as myself, always thought like I'm doing my job as a husband. When my wife went into the hospital, I realized very fast how she does 99% of everything.
Yeah.
And I knew she always did, guys. Like I really did. But I realized how much of a presence, like I was doing stuff, but being present in the moment. Shay, you and I have talked about this.
we have.
And I got to a point where I was there, but I wasn't present. So my wife and I had this idea about doing therapy, one for me, for behavioral therapy on trying to let go and trying to work on things like within the family and things like that. So I was always on, yes. But over the last 12 months, I would say, oh no, you can't get me. I've now told people if it's 4 o'clock and you try to schedule meetings with me, it'll automatically decline after 4 o'clock. I take my kids to school. I don't get to work till 8:30, 9 o'clock in the mornings. I block off my schedules on every Friday once a month. My kids have off school. I take off school, we go to the beach. Every Good Friday, every Memorial Day, every Martin Luther King holiday, I've changed. So my work-life balance has gone to being a present husband, father, and I would say, member of the family. Compared to, Shay, you remember when we first met, right? I was probably worked every weekend. So guys, yes, I do have a work-life balance, but I've come to the point now where, Ed, you and I talked about your son, and it's my kids. It's like they're growing up too fast.
Yeah. No, they do.
And
you wake up and it's over.
And then that's when, my work-life balance came in. So it's just like the last year, yes, guys, the last year, yeah, 100%. If you were asked me 2 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, man, I work on Saturdays.
and everybody's in a different season of their
I'm
life.
editing
Like
on Sundays.
you right now, he's empty
He's
nest, old.
Yeah,
I'm
that's what Ed's
almost
going
there.
at.
No, where I'm going is that
No, I agree
you
with you.
pick it up when you want to. You put it down when you want to.
No, I
mean,
told
that's
my wife that.
That's the beauty of entrepreneurship.
My
Yeah.
wife said that to me. Shay, remember we talked it was like 2 weeks ago, Shay, and it was Good Friday, and then Easter Monday, and I was like, no, I'm taking off the whole Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you're like, yeah. I was like, listen, my wife yells at me. She's like, you own your own business. She's like, I know that means you have to work more. She goes, but what that means is I get to tell you to take off work and we're going to the beach. And I was like, you know what? Tell me we're going to the beach again. Tell me we're going to the beach.
dare you.
We're going to the beach. Okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
People are like, where you at? I'm like,
Oh,
doesn't
my God,
matter. I'm
that's
like, I'm
funny.
at the beach.
Shay, what beach do you go to, Shay?
Yeah,
Where you
yeah,
live?
I'm a long ways from the beach.
Yeah. You don't go to the beach.
yeah.
So, Shay, as you come in, so I want to get at some point to the plane discussion.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That came up. I want to hear about the plane. I take it you're a pilot, so I want to get to that. But you two are in the podcast game, bringing out great information to the citizens of the world, I guess, at this point. That's the beauty of the podcast. I mean, you're reaching not just here, but we're reaching all over. But tell us about you. What
Who
brought you
to
here?
start that?
Yeah,
thing?
yeah,
That's-
But
yeah.
before you got to that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I said,
so-
get us back to how you even got into produce.
Yeah. So third generation farm kid.
Okay.
I.e. like, and that's where most of my content you're gonna find is on, with that name, Shay Farm Kid. They'll be on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn. And I'll explain where I got there in just a second. Third generation farm kid. My grandfather started post Korean War, right? He got the GI Bill and kind of went out and began farming, and he worked for his in-laws all the way until the late 70s, right? So from the late 50s, for 20 years he worked for his in-laws, but he always knew his.
What's he growing? What?
So we grow 9 different crops.
Okay.
But in our region, onions, potatoes, a lot of seed crops are grown there.
Okay.
And then other commodity crops, sugar beets, wheat, corn, etc. But really, our lifeblood, we live and die by what's happening in the onion market. That's probably 70% of our gross revenue comes from our onion production.
Onion deal.
Yep. He started that again on his own, but finally was able to break out in the late 70s. One of my uncles came back with him, and his dream was to always have a place where his family could work together. And, so this is happening I graduate in 99. I'm done with college in 2005. I didn't want to farm, though. I didn't want to go back to the farm. And I guess the thing is what's weird is I didn't want to be a farmer.
Yeah.
I liked the idea of the business, and I really love the idea of continuing a family legacy, but there was no one. So I'm like the oldest grandchild, right? So you kind of have these... to me, I see this all over the place. The generational, or not generational, but also birth order, like where you happen to fall in your family birth order and where you fall in your extended family birth order has a huge impact on the way that you see the world.
Right.
And I really had like this, I was always really proud of being a farm kid. And in fact, I didn't realize, like to me, being a farm kid and growing up on a farm, I knew what that meant. My first experience in realizing how little people understand about what being a farmer is happened in a leadership course. I was in the student council in high school, and I went to the big city. I went to Portland, Oregon, right? I was living in Nissa, Oregon, went to Portland, Oregon, and you were supposed to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then the rest of the group was supposed to draw a picture. And I said, I'm a farm kid, and everyone drew a barn, with the guy with the pitchfork and the tractors and the chickens and stuff. And I'm like,
USA,
yeah,
right?
like, and I'm
I
like,
was gonna say.
That's what I'm thinking of.
and that was like probably the
Shay.
first time. Like I'm like everyone thinks I'm just this country bumpkin that probably doesn't.
You're not.
Just
Wait, what?
yeah, I know. I mean, it's somewhat true, but not completely. So I get done with college. I'm not going to come back to the farm, but then I just there's this legacy that I cannot not come back. And ag sucked in the early 2000s, guys. It sucked, and I couldn't not come back though. I had to give it a shot, but I told them I got to come back and I've got to run the business side of the operation. You don't want me out driving tractors. You don't want me trying to fix things. You don't want me doing that. You need me trying to grow the business. So, we went from 200 acres of onions. Well, first of all, we put our first packing shed in 2006. The family knew that they wanted us to have a pack shed. We weren't vertically integrated yet. They're like, Shay, you need to do this. This is what you need to do. So they threw me the wolves. They let me make massive mistakes. And that's something that you got to realize is going to happen, and you got to be willing to do. If you're going to throw someone at it and throw them to the wolves, You
Yeah.
got to realize that they're going to make mistakes. They're going to get nipped at and hurt.
Agreed.
But we did that. And, from that point in time, we were 200 acres in 2006. We'll be 1,800 acres as of this year. So massive growth. And I've been able to be, a driving force on that part, but with the partnership of our farming operation, right? So I'm on the business side. I've got my family, my cousin, and my uncle on the farming side. And the benefit is we can pivot, we can move, we can do things really quickly if we have a vision and a plan. And so that's, kind of how I ended up where I am today. To speak to one thing that I think is interesting, why did I start creating content? There was what we call snowmageddon in our area. We had a bunch of buildings that collapsed in 2017. I was already kind of on LinkedIn, winter of 2016. I was already sharing content, but on a limited basis. And we had 7 onion storages collapse.
Wow.
We were able to save our packing facility, but I started talking to people and they had no idea what was happening because this is really in a little microclimate just outside of Boise, Idaho. It was a small area, and people didn't know what was happening. My customers are like, dude, they just didn't believe me, right? So I started shooting the content out of sheer, almost desperation. I had to get out there and show what was happening. And as I did that, I got the feedback, and I started to understand what I learned in high school in that course in Portland, Oregon, how little people understand about ag, and it just kind of built from there. The need that we have to share the common sense processes that we do in agriculture and how impactful that is in everyone else's life.
Right. Yeah, your stuff. I mean, it resonates not just with people in the industry. I think what you're putting together resonates past that as well, right? Like you said, for people that don't know what goes into it, what's behind all of this, and I think that's super good. That's the kind of the idea with what we're trying to do. Is not just talk to our own folks, but how do we reach out past who's in this business, and how can we bring people? Because there's people passionate about produce that aren't produce people.
100%.
And there's tons of.
But they usually don't understand what we're doing.
No, they don't. And there's also the other side of it too is we've got a lot of people in this business that don't make it to these shows or don't get the behind the scenes. There's produce managers that they're there on the front lines, but even they, I think, have a desire to get more information. That's kind of the thought process. And, for you guys, both you guys, I think you guys do a great job, putting together content that, like I say, it's not wonky, industry wonky. It really, ideally resonates with somebody past that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Patrick and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and, we got into the subject of folks that don't get it, and sometimes you try to explain to them, at least give them a shot. And I think, what was the expression I used? A bee doesn't waste their time explaining to a fly why honey is better than crap. If you don't get it, you just don't get it, right? You want people to get there. But, and it's not all about self-aggrandizement, patting ourselves on the back. I truly feel like we're doing something to help people. I know that we've talked about it before. My health was so poor that I prayed to God that if I got better, that I would be extra for the rest of my life and try to help as many people as possible. At least if I could, help one person not feel as bad as I did.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to talk because I still want to hear the whole produce common sense start. So you better.
Yeah,
I want to get back to that. You just gave us the whole Shay of the Farm Kid and let us hanging on about produce common sense.
I don't remember how the produce common sense. You want the credit? Is that what you're saying? He wants the credit.
Yeah,
he
probably gets the credit, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't even remember.
Nudge.
Yeah. Hey, how did you get it?
What's funny is I remember Shay and I talking and starting that podcast, and there was another group involved. We're not gonna say who. But I remember Shay and I's conversation, and I told him, I said, I think you should start the podcast. I've consulted with a lot of people in this industry about starting a podcast because, one, I didn't just start a podcast from starting a podcast. I actually had a Start Ugly podcast, right, which was horrible. Right? I think I still have 400 downloads to that thing,
nice.
Total on 12 episodes.
Yeah.
So it's up there, man. It's really up there. But on the fact of what you said about the encouragement, there's so many podcasts in this industry, and everybody. I just had someone reach out the other day. There's going to be a new Apple podcast starting. It's just going to be about, I think, Michigan apples or that area. And I always tell everybody, I said, if you're going to do it, but don't mess around. And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, we're going to try it out and see if it works. I said, okay. I said, so yeah, I do. Let's go waste money. See how it works out.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that, why don't you just give me $5,000? We'll go to a shredder. We'll have the enjoyment of shredding all this money together, right? But people don't realize that when you start a podcast, hosts don't make it past episode 7. Those are the stats.
Really?
So when you look at the churn rate of podcasts.
Damn. All right.
Yeah. So the churn rate of podcasts, when you're looking at, there's probably over 5 million podcasts on Apple today.
Mm-hmm.
The churn rate is probably up near 56 to 60%.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Damn.
And so what they do is they only analyze podcasts that are weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly.
Okay.
So the churn rate is very high, meaning that these podcasts never make it past episode 7, especially if they're monthly. Because what they do is they get to episode 6 and they only see 400 downloads.
Right.
Or even less. So they get to a point where they're like, I'm not going to do this. We've seen this before. How many podcasts have been started in this industry?
Mm-hmm.
They have sponsors, they have people, and then now all of a sudden they're gone. And there was no outro of, hey, we're done, thank you. Like when Friends left, they all came on stage and waved at everybody.
Yeah,
it was hey, season 342 is done, everybody. But, no, I mean, look, I told you, Craig, I have a platform that's a networking platform for other marketers in audio and podcasters. So we have a platform that Shay's podcast is on, my podcast is on, and many others in the industry, right? But again, same thing. I said to myself with my book, if I could change 1% of baby boomers' mindsets, right? And that 1% would just be giving a millennial a chance, right? In the presentation. It was I would be happy with that. Same thing with the podcast. When I get people that come up and, say, oh man, I saw you on LinkedIn. It's so funny now because I start to say things like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? But you start to realize they want to take a picture of us out there. All of us look. Everybody look. Hey, how we doing? You know what I mean? But changing that little 1%, right? And when people come up and say, man, I saw your Onions 101. I saw your market report. I saw this. We as people get to a point where we're us as the host, we're like, yeah, right. But then deep down inside, after the show when you go back, I sat there and you get to think to yourself and go, yes, we touched one more person that needed a little bit extra of an outlet versus just reading the news every day.
And that is at least for me, right? And then that's I always tell these guys. It's the feedback, even if it's from one or two people, right, on the podcast, somebody comes up to you. It's the fact that we're delivering content that somebody finds valuable. That's always my.
Somebody.
I don't. Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, it comes
right?
down to be somebody because
somebody out there. We see you out there.
Does not matter to me, as much about, being on and doing a podcast. It's more about, are we producing content that has interest? Are we producing good content that has good information that we can share with people? And super important to me, and something that we strive for all the time. And it's the feedback that you get from people that really, for me, keeps me going in the business. That's why we're still doing it, because, like I said, it's a time investment. It's money investment. It's a time investment. It's not.
I remember talking to Shay for the first time, guys. I followed Shay, so I was always nervous to do videos on LinkedIn,
mm-hmm.
and Shay was killing it. And I remember calling Shay, and I was like, what do you do? He's like, I just pull up my phone and do it. And I was like, you do? He's like, no editing, no mics. Remember those first days?
Yeah, I just do 3 takes and I was done, right? I still do that part of the time. You can tell, right?
Yeah. Listen, we did it yesterday.
But the don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Amen.
Everything you do, you can't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And so if you don't just create the content, if you don't make the effort. Now, there is something to be said for a beautiful setup like this and something that's nice and polished, but there's also something very genuine and real about pulling my freaking phone out, and
I like
just
that stuff.
And just talking about what's going on, the good, the bad, and everything in between.
I agree.
But you're fortunate to have that of what you talk about. That's what that
your content too. Again, some of the first videos that Shay sent to me was him you remember you laying in the onion field?
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah.
sending me pictures of that. Like, I thought that was, but to me, I was like, I've never been in an onion field. This dude's sending me like videos of him laying down on his back, and he's like, he'd be like talking about onions, and I was like, what the hell is going on? And then it made me realize, like, I was like, I'm not saying it wasn't perfect, but it was to a point where it was Shay coming on, you know what I mean? And it was like Shay with a wahi, hey everyone, boom, boom. And I was sitting there going, I could do that, right? And I was like, and it wasn't like, I'm going to cut, but I said to myself in my own way, like, when I go to a grocery store, if I go to a certain place, right? Like, who are the people we're talking to, things like that. And I agree. It was like, okay, I'm just going to start doing more video. And I think now it's like my videos, like we talked about this, right? Like, I don't think we ever do still images anymore because we'll only get a few thousand views. You do a video and it's like 13, 14,000 views. And that's when, again, and in the comments or the reach outs, you get like, oh man, I didn't know you put sunscreen on your onions. Like that was a big one. Remember that one?
Yeah,
that one got millions of views on TikTok too. But yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's where it's like amazing, right? Like that's where it's like you get somebody that's sitting at a desk and they're not able to go. And I just ran into a asparagus grower and I was like, hey, is your guy here? Oh no, he didn't come to this show. But the guy's commented on LinkedIn on everything we're posting to the show. Those are the people we are reaching.
Yeah.
Those are the people we want to see because they value.
Yeah.
They are valuable in our supply chain. And just because you're not here, it doesn't mean that we don't value and you need to get the same value as that we're getting here.
That's exactly right. Well, look, I've seen.
I want one more thing on Shay's content. What I admire a lot about is that, you can be provocative with what you're talking about. You have an opinion, right? I mean, you have the ability. For some of us that work for larger companies, you kind of have to ride a fine line.
Right. Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that filter.
I really enjoy that. I mean, I admire it. I mean, I'm jealous, actually. I mean, I think that's a really cool thing that you do. I mean, I know you probably get some blowback regardless, but you know what you're signed up for, right?
We all do.
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, I that's the thing that I like. We're all passionate, and if you don't share the passion, then what's the point, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what, when it comes to some of these rants that I occasionally do, I think I can only think of like 3 really good rants that I've had against. But the reason that I've done that is because I feel like sometimes as an industry we don't stick up for ourselves.
Oh, true.
And especially on the grower packer side, and especially on the farmer side, if I go one level below that, farmers are so bad at just accepting everything that comes at them, and so someone's got to be provocative enough or forward enough to be loud and try and be heard.
Yeah.
I read something you had said about how do you expect someone to pay your price if they don't know what it took to produce the product?
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
I really like that.
100%.
All right. Hate to do it, Eddie, but it is that time.
You can't keep going?
We can't keep going.
Okay.
We can keep going, but we just have to do it on
Well,
another day.
I
We have
mean,
to do it on
okay,
another
so-
day. We have.
So we're doing this
But are they
world.
listening to us? We don't know yet.
We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah,
When
don't
we
know.
do this world tour, we didn't get to talk about Shay's flying, so maybe he can take
I
us
was gonna
out.
say we'll hit Shay up for the plane, and maybe he can take us.
Whoa.
to
Yeah,
Spain.
There you go, there you go.
Patrick,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry
We gotta
to
back this up.
sorry to hone in on your.
There's only 2 parachutes. You guys can come, but I'm just saying.
So, but no, guys, really appreciate, like I say, the background story. Most of that I did not know, right? How you guys got here, how you got in the business, and ideally, that's really what we want to communicate for the folks out there when they tune in. Learn a little bit about you guys. They know about you on the podcast. They know about the content you're putting out. But a lot of times they don't know about who you are and how you got there. So really appreciate it. And, different journeys, right? And you guys, it's interesting with you because you kind of took the journey together somewhat. You worked off each other with, you and the laying in the onion field inspired him with some stuff, and then sounds like he inspired you to really take it to the next level and put it out there. So really, really good story on that and your entrepreneurship.
Congratulations on your success. Success,
for
both
sure.
of you.
And
It's great to see.
And certainly love having you guys on. We will maybe have to
Not
do
that
this
you
again.
need it, but any plugs you want to share with our audience?
You got any plugs?
I don't think I have any plugs.
Where's
I
your
mean, if
booth?
you want to go find us, Shay Farm Kid. I mean, I'm anywhere you want, whatever platform you're on. That would be it. I'd love to have more followers. I'd love to share what I do.
I like it. I always say I hate doing plugs. So I will be at the Continental Fresh booth here. So listen, everyone. I always say my plug is going to be this. Choose your platform, choose your network. Choose the people that you are dedicated to listening to, and then give others a shot. Try something new. If you haven't listened to our podcast, take a listen to it. If you haven't listened to Shay's, try it out, and develop and understand the content that you want to see, and then help your organization develop dynamite content that we want to see.
All right, gentlemen.
Darn it. I had another question,
but
we're going to save it for part two. We're going to save it for part two. And that is, so you guys are prepared for next time, what your favorite podcasts are to listen to. Because we could talk probably about half an hour about that. Right? Okay.
Easy.
Awesome.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Shay.
Thank you.
All right, folks.